Why does Jude always get the microwave stuff? Ellie said it from halfway up the stairs, blanket dragging behind her, voice thick with sleep. I had just walked through my own front door at 11:27 on a Tuesday night, smelling like rain, burnt wire, and 17 hours of storm restoration work. My shoulders were locked. My stomach had burned past hunger hours ago and come back around to nausea. Then I smelled it. Garlic butter, roasted vegetables, salmon, not dinner. The after-smell of a dinner that had already happened without me. On the kitchen island sat the evidence. 3 plates, mostly scraped clean, salmon fillets, roasted baby potatoes, asparagus with blackened edges, garlic bread, a real dinner. The kind people make when they care what the table looks like. Claire was at the sink rinsing glasses. She glanced over her shoulder when I came in. The way you look at someone arriving after the guests are gone. I opened the fridge. There wasn't one. Claire nodded toward the microwave. In there, inside, was a bowl covered with a paper towel, boxed mac and cheese, the bright orange kind with 4 or 5 slices of hot dog floating in it, like an apology nobody meant. The cheese had skinned over. The hot dogs looked pale and swollen. I stared at it, then at the sink. Salmon oil still gleamed across the plates. That is what you saved for me. Claire dried her hands and folded the towel once. Calm as ever, the kids wanted the salmon while it was fresh. You were still at the yard on Lifeuilloshi, so I figured you weren't close. I left you something easy. Easy, she gave one small shrug. You got in late. I wasn't going to ruin the good food reheating it. Then Ellie, half awake on the stairs, asked it again this time, like she was asking something she had already wondered before. Why does Jude always get the microwave stuff? Claire said. Ellie, upstairs. Now, I didn't answer. I took the bowl out, looked at the waxy cheese, the cheap hot dog coins, then looked back at the salmon grease shining on porcelain. And for the first time, I understood this hadn't happened because I was late. It happened because this was where she thought I belonged. Let me back up a few weeks. Cary, North Carolina. Clean subdivision, edged lawns, block party culture. From the outside, we looked like the thing everybody wants. I am 34, senior storm response supervisor for the regional power co-op. Owned the house before Claire moved in. Claire, 32, fundraising consultant, freelance event stylist. 2 kids from her first marriage, Mason, 12, Ellie, 9. Their biological father, Chris Bennett, was technically still around weekend energy, sporadic child support, showed up for the parts that photograph well. I married Claire 2.5 years ago, moved them into my house. Better school district, started covering what Chris did in baseball registrations, science fair supplies, cleats, rides, the leak under the sink, the fence after the ice storm, the dryer vent. Nobody noticed. From the outside, whole, but at the edges, family photos on Claire's phone were almost always Claire and kids. The shared calendar revolved around Claire's events and kids' schedules. My shifts were logged only so she could calculate when I would be available. I thought I was building a family. It is possible I was just keeping someone else's family running smoother. I went to pick up Mason from school, forgot his baseball bag, and while I waited, the clerk pulled up the emergency contact file. I saw it before she turned the monitor. 1, Claire Mercer 2, Chris Bennett 3, Dana Pierce 4, Jude Mercer 4th. Behind the father who hasn't paid full child support in over a year. Behind Claire's sister who lives 40 minutes away and has never once picked the kids up. 4th, in the house I pay for. That night, I asked Claire why. She answered instantly. I didn't want to make things weird with the school. Weird how? Her jaw hardened. Jude, not everything is a referendum on your place in this house. That should have made me push back. Instead, it made me go quiet, because she used your place in this house like it was something already mapped, fixed, not up for discussion because in her mind, it never had been. She didn't forget to list me higher. She put me exactly where she thought I belonged. I went to pick up Mason from school, forgot his baseball bag, and while I waited, the clerk pulled up the emergency contact file. I saw it before she turned the monitor. 1, Claire Mercer 2, Chris Bennett 3, Dana Pierce 4, Jude Mercer 4th. Behind the father who hasn't paid full child support in over a year. Behind Claire's sister who lives 40 minutes away and has never once picked the kids up. 4th, in the house I pay for. That night I asked Claire why. She answered instantly. I didn't want to make things weird with the school. Weird how? Her jaw hardened. Jude, Not everything is a referendum on your place in this house. That should have made me push back. Instead, it made me go quiet, because she used your place in this house like it was something already mapped. Fixed, not up for discussion because in her mind, it never had been. She didn't forget to list me higher. She put me exactly where she thought I belonged. Over the next week, I couldn't unsee it. The good yogurt Claire bought for Ellie always gone before I touched one. Mason's expensive protein bars restocked like inventory. When Claire ordered takeout, the kids got exactly what they wanted. Claire got what she liked, and I got whatever was easiest to tack on. E is easy. I heard her say it to the restaurant on the phone. One Saturday, Claire made real breakfast eggs, turkey bacon, blueberry pancakes for Ellie. I came downstairs. She looked at me over her shoulder. There is frozen waffles in the freezer if you want something quick. She said it the way someone tells a coworker where the vending machine is. None of it was dramatic. None of it was big enough to fight about. My wife bought the kids better yogurt than me. That is not a sentence a grown man says without sounding ridiculous. But once you see the sorting, you cannot unsee it. There was a tier system in my own house. Claire and the kids on one level, me on another where everything could wait. Everything was easy, and nothing needed to be good because I had never complained. I wasn't being forgotten, I was being filed. Claire threw herself into the school's spring fundraiser like an election she intended to win. She was good at it. Donor tables, committee, venue, social media, auction logistics, 35 parents on task. The principal called her indispensable. What she needed from me was a different kind of indispensable. Generator backup. I hauled the unit from the co-op yard, vendor outlet issue at 6 a.m. I ran the layout, tables, risers, signage too heavy for volunteers. I did it all. By afternoon, I had been on site longer than anyone except Claire. But in photos, posts, committee chatter, Claire was the face. Claire and the kids in every shot. I appeared in none. I overheard a committee mom near the auction table. I don't know how you do it all. You are basically running everything, Claire laughed. Warm practiced. It takes a village. She didn't mention me. Dana saw me hauling chairs. Claire's lucky to have someone so handy. Handy like a tool you are glad is in the garage when you need it. At the thank you portion, Claire stood at the podium. I also want to thank my husband, Jude, who was a huge help with setup and logistics. A huge help in my own community. At an event I made physically possible. Claire knew I was important. She just didn't need me anywhere that required calling me the center. Nobody fights about money all at once. It leaks. Custom sign for the fundraiser, $62. Art camp deposit for Ellie, $140. Salon. Before the gala, nails the same week. Decor samples for Claire's client pitch. 2 kitchen shelf units because the first didn't fit the aesthetic. Mason's travel baseball weekend. Hotel, gas, tournament fee, new glove. None of it outrageous. That was always the shield. All reasonable, all for the kids, all for the family. But the current only flowed one direction. One evening I was in the garage scraping mud off my boots. The heel had been pulling from the sole for 2 weeks. The rubber peeled back in my hand. Done. I had been meaning to replace them since March. Walked inside. Charge notification on Claire's iPad. Still lit on the counter. Salon, Mason's travel deposit. Both processed. I wasn't broke. That is important. I had a good job. I wasn't being ruined. I was being deprioritized. The house always had room for what kept Claire's world polished, and the kids looking cared for. My boots could wait another week, and another. I wasn't missing from the budget. I was just never first in a house I helped pay for. I didn't announce anything. I just stopped. Stopped running to the store when Claire texted. Stopped pre-checking Mason's gear bag. Stopped filling Claire's car on Sunday nights. Started buying my own groceries, good ones. Cooked a steak for myself one night, while the rest of the house ate whatever Claire had planned. Didn't make a show of it. Just made dinner for myself. Like someone who lived there and mattered. It took 3 days. Claire noticed the gas tank first. Did you forget to fill up my car? I replied. Didn't know that was my job. By week's end, the gaps showed. The dryer vent I had been cleaning every Sunday clogged. Garage door stuttering, I had been lubricating the track monthly. The bathroom faucet I had been planning to fix. Now it dripped. Mason asked Claire why the Wi-Fi extender in his room wasn't working. She didn't know there was one. I had installed it 4 months ago. Nobody ever asked. Nobody said thanks. It just worked. And because it worked, it was invisible. And because it was invisible, it was mine. The house didn't collapse. It just got inconvenient. And in the friction, the shape of what I had been carrying became visible to people who had never had to see it. Claire started leaving longer pauses before asking me for things, as if the autopilot she had relied on had quietly disengaged, and she didn't have a manual override. Jake Holloway had been working storms with me for 7 years. We talked about load ratings and which diners stayed open past midnight during outage season. Not feelings. But Jake noticed things the way linemen do by what is different from baseline. One afternoon on the tailgate between calls, he handed me coffee and said, "You good?" "Yeah, you don't seem good." Long silence. "Then when do they make room for you when they don't need something?" I turned and looked at him like he would read something off the inside of my chest. "I have met Claire. I have heard you talk about the kids, the house, the stuff you do. When is the last time any of them did something for you that wasn't because something was broken or needed paying for?" I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Nothing." Jake took the thermos back. "That is what I thought." We didn't talk about it again. The silence had been the answer, and the answer was worse than anything either of us could have said. I found it by accident, looking for the property tax receipt in Claire's filing drawer. Between school forms and insurance, a manila envelope, no label inside, a HELOC inquiry. Pre-qualification paperwork. Claire's name, my name. My house bought 3 years before I met her, listed as collateral purpose. Kitchen renovation, built-in cabinetry, home office integration. She had mapped what the house could become: a better kitchen for her freelance clients. Built-in shelving, integrated workspace. All on the equity of a house I owned before she walked through the door. I wasn't angry about a renovation. Couples improve homes. But Claire had drawn a future for herself on the foundation of my asset. In that future, everything was better for her and me. I was the mortgage, the equity, the credit score, the foundation, but not the family. Is she building a life with me or on top of me? The gala was everything Claire promised. Twinkle lights across the pavilion, catered stations, silent auction, jazz from speakers. I had wired at dawn. Claire was radiant black dress, confident stride, every donor feeling personally appreciated. I was in the back, literally. At 6:45 p.m. the venue's main panel tripped. Half the pavilion went dark. Warming stations died. Av went silent. Claire's face went white for 2 seconds before she turned to me. I was already moving. 20 minutes, generator running, AV rerouted, warming stations on a dedicated circuit. Nobody in the crowd ever knew. Claire squeezed my arm. "You are amazing, thank you." Then she was gone, back to the donors, the photos, the part that would be remembered. At 8:15, Chris walked in, late, dressed well, swept Mason into a stock photo hug. Suddenly he was in the photos, with the kids. In the frame, a parent approached me. "You are Claire's husband, right? The guy who helped with the setup?" Later I overheard Claire with committee moms near coat check. One asked about the renovation. "We are looking into it. We have been saving. I have been freelancing more to build up that cushion. We have been saving, like the equity wasn't my house. I have been freelancing more, like I didn't cover the mortgage, utilities, insurance, kids' expenses, and groceries while her freelance income stayed in her account. Jude's great. He keeps everything running. Like a generator in the back of a building nobody walks into. In Claire's story, she was the architect. I was the infrastructure, and the worst part, she believed it. After the gala, kids asleep, Claire sorting donor lists with wine at the counter. I sat down next to her, close enough that she had to stop. She could feel it coming. Shoulders back, chin raised. "Do you know what I cannot get out of my head?" She watched me. "Not the board. Not Chris in time for photos. Not how you introduced me to donors like a contractor." Pause. "It is that bowl in the microwave." Claire blinked. That wasn't what she had braced for. "You fed your kids and yourself a real dinner. Then you looked at what was left. You looked at me and decided boxed mac and cheese with hot dogs was good enough. Oh my God, are we seriously doing this again?" "Yes. The kids wanted the salmon fresh. You got home late. I left you food. Most people would call that consideration." I smiled. Small. Not amusement. Recognition. That is exactly the point. You didn't forget to feed me. You decided what kind of meal I was worth. That is not fair. What is not fair is you keep acting like I am imagining a pattern when even Ellie can see it. She stiffened. Ellie is 9, and she asked why I always get the microwave stuff. Cold quiet, I continued. Lower. I can handle a late dinner. I can handle leftovers. What I cannot handle is that in this house, the good things always go to the people you think of first. And I get whatever's easy, cheap, or left after the real family's been taken care of. Don't do that. Don't use the kids to make me sound cruel. Then tell me I am wrong. She opened her mouth, stopped, pivoted. You are taking one dinner and turning it into this giant statement because you are tired and angry and looking for proof of something dramatic. It stopped being one dinner when I noticed it wasn't just dinner. I listed them calmly, like items off a receipt, the emergency form fourth. The way she says the kids and I like that is the unit. The event I saved the auction and got thanked as a huge help with setup. The HELOC on my house for her renovation. Chris gets family photos. I get 5 a.m. labor. Every time something needs paying, hauling, fixing, saving, I am first. Every other time I am not on the list. Chris is their father. I know. That is not what this is about. Then what is it about? You knew exactly where I was that night. Claire. You checked Lif Odilshire. You calculated I wasn't close and decided what I was worth for dinner. I let it land. So, tell me, where do I belong in your life when I am not paying for it, fixing it, hauling it, or saving it? Silence. The house humming, fridge, dryer, the mechanical sounds of a life that ran because someone kept it running. Then she said the thing she thought would save her. You are the one I can rely on. You are solid. I never thought I had to manage you the way I manage everything else. I swallowed. In her head, a compliment. You are reliable, low maintenance. You don't need what other people need. In my ears, a confession. I never thought of you as someone who needed to be loved carefully. I thought of you as someone who could take it. Solid wasn't a term of endearment. It was a load rating. I wasn't done. Not to punish her, because I needed to know one more thing. If I got hurt tomorrow, bad enough, I couldn't work for 6 months. What changes first? What kind of question is that? An honest one. Her mouth moved, running calculations. We would have to look at bills. Mortgage would be tight on just my freelance. Insurance covers some, but there would be a gap. Mason's baseball would pause. Summer plans would change, stop. I asked what changes first. You went to the mortgage. Bills, baseball. Summer plans. You didn't say, I would take care of you. You didn't say, I would be scared. You went to the budget because that is how I had need to plan. I know, that is the answer. Claire, the whole answer. I stood. The first thing that breaks when I go down isn't your heart, it is the system. Her eyes were wet, not crying, but close. That is not what I meant. Yeah, it never is. Over the next week, Claire changed. Not the way someone changes when they understand something deep. The way someone changes when they feel something shift beneath the floor. Real dinners for me. Eye contact when asking about my shift. Movie night where I got to pick, and I felt nothing. Every act of warmth came with a timestamp after. After the confrontation, after the pattern was named. After the structure was threatened. She set a plate in front of me, grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, the good rice. And all I thought was, you always could do this. You just never thought you needed to. This wasn't love waking up. This was maintenance. Thursday evening. Claire on the phone, clipped tone. She hung up, pressed fingers to the bridge of her nose, turned to me. Chris cannot cover Mason's tournament deposit. Again, $480 due Friday. Mason loses his spot. Her voice softened, or tried to. Can you just cover it this time? I cannot let the kids be the ones who suffer. There it was, the reflex. A whole week of performed correction, and the first time the system developed a gap, she turned to me. Not to Chris who owed it, not to her savings. To me, a week ago you told me I was the one you can rely on, said it like it was beautiful. Right now, you are proving exactly what that means. Jude, this isn't about it, is always about this. When something breaks, costs, needs carrying, your first instinct isn't to protect me, it is to deploy me. He is your kid. I love that kid, but I am not the backstop for a man who will not show up inside a marriage where I don't get to sit at the table until everyone else has eaten. I stood, pay it, don't pay it, work it out with Chris, but I am done being the emergency wallet for a family that only remembers I exist when the bill comes due. I walked to the garage, Saturday in my truck, engine off, dark cab, smell of work, and rain, and wire. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity, No screaming match, no bags on the lawn, no dramatic driveway monologue. Lawyer on Monday, the house was mine, premarital, titled, and mortgaged in my name. Clean, separate bank account. Canceled the joint card. Found an apartment small, second floor, 12 minutes from the yard. 1 bedroom, gas stove. Enough counter to cook a real meal for one. I told Claire on a Wednesday. Kids upstairs. I am moving out this weekend. I have talked to a lawyer. The house stays with me. You will need to find a place within 60 days. I will make the transition smooth for the kids. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious about anything. We can work on this. Counseling. I will, you will. What? Start treating me like a husband instead of a handyman. Stop putting me fourth on every list. Tell Chris to pay his own bills. Stop using my house as collateral for your business plan. You had 2.5 years. You didn't. Not because you couldn't, because you never saw a reason to. She was crying, real tears. I love you. I looked at her for a long time. I believe you think that is true. I picked up my keys, but love isn't just a feeling, Claire. It is how you treat someone when nothing is broken and nothing needs fixing. By that measure, you never loved me. You used me gently, politely, with a smile. But you used me. I walked out, got in my truck, drove to the apartment I had already signed on. For the first time in 2.5 years, I didn't feel like I was carrying a house on my back. The weeks after were ugly in the way quiet things are ugly. Claire cried not in front of the kids. She started doing things herself. Badly, then less badly. Then with the grim competence of someone realizing they always could have. They just never had to. Dana called once. She is a mess. Come back. The kids need stability. Dana, do you hear yourself? You didn't say Claire needs me. You said the kids need stability. That is the same pitch everyone's made for 2 years. I am not a person to you people. I am a function. I didn't mean it like that. Nobody ever does. Mason didn't understand me leaving meant the ride stopped. The help stopped. The invisible structure just vanished. He was angry at the disruption. One afternoon, he called. You coming to my game Saturday? Do you want me there? Yeah, you always come. I was there. Alone in the bleachers, away from Claire. Mason hit a double in the third and looked toward the stands, not toward Claire. Toward me. I raised my hand. He nodded once. Not much, but real. Ellie understood faster. 2 weeks after I moved out, she walked into my apartment, looked around, and said, "It is quiet here." Yeah, is that good? I crouched to her level. It is better than loud for the wrong reasons. She thought about it. Mom cries sometimes. When she thinks we are asleep, your mom's going through a hard time. She is strong. Ellie looked at me with those clear, terrible eyes children have when they see something they shouldn't. She is strong because you made everything easy for her. Now she has to be strong by herself. I didn't answer. The kid was right, and there was no version of the truth gentle enough for a 9-year-old. 3 months later, Claire brought Ellie to my apartment for a science project. Poster board, markers, cotton balls for cloud formations. The apartment was small, not sad, right-sized. Chili on the stove, a framed topo map on the wall. My boots by the door clean, new, the good ones. The ones I would finally bought for myself. Claire stood in the doorway, looking around. You seem lighter. I leaned against the counter. I am not waiting to be included anymore. Her mouth opened, closed. She nodded. Once the kind that holds more than agreement. I will pick her up at 4. She will be fine. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it is worth, I am sorry about the bowl. I looked at her. It was never about the bowl. Claire. She held my gaze, then walked to her car. Ellie looked up. Can we use the good markers? The ones that don't bleed through? I opened a drawer and set down a brand new pack. The expensive kind. The kind I would have waited to buy a year ago. All yours. She smiled and got to work. I stirred the chili and looked out the kitchen window at a parking lot that wasn't a backyard. In an apartment that wasn't a 4-bedroom house. In a life that was finally, unmistakably, mine. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, the quiet didn't feel like being left out. It felt like being free.
All right, that is all for today's story. I guess this pay attention to the small patterns. The way someone treats you in ordinary moments often tells the truth long before the big ending arrives. Being needed is not the same as being loved, and I hope you choose the places where you are truly valued. not just the places where you are useful. This story was presented as a fictionalized narrative inspired by relationship and family conflict stories shared online. AI was used to assist with voice production and parts of the drafting process, while the writing, structure, and final editing were shaped by a human. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next story.